Zaraketh stood at the window of her spaceship, watching the blue and green planets slowly grow larger as they approached. 300 years of life had taught her patience, but today she felt different. Today felt like the day that would change. Everything she touched the silver scales on her arm, each one telling a story of her victories in the diplomatic world. Other ambassadors respected her, some even feared her. She had negotiated peace treaties between warring worlds, convinced stubborn leaders to sign trade agreements, and solved conflicts that had lasted for centuries. But none of that mattered now. Only one thing mattered: becoming the Supreme Chancellor. Of the Galactic Federation, the Supreme Chancellor was the most powerful position in the galaxy. They made decisions that affected billions of lives across thousands of worlds. Zaraketh wanted it more than anything she had ever wanted in her long life. Her assistant, a young diplomat named Valoran, approached her with a datapad. "Ambassador, we'll be landing on Kepler 4 for it'll be in 2 hours. The tribal leaders are waiting to meet you at the main settlement." Zaraketh nodded, her mind already working through the negotiation strategies she had prepared. This mission seemed simple enough. The Galactic Federation wanted to mine rare crystals from this planet. The crystals were incredibly valuable. They could power entire space stations and make faster than light, travel cheaper for everyone. But there was one problem. The planet was home to indigenous people called Keplerians. The Keplerians were a peaceful species who lived in harmony with their planet's natural rhythms. They had been on Kepler 4 for thousands of years, long before the Federation even existed. But progress was progress, and the Federation needed those crystals. "The Council has made it clear," Zaraketh said to her assistant. "If I can convince the Keplerians to relocate peacefully, the Supreme Chancellor position is mine. If I fail, ... She didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew what failure meant in Federation politics. As their ship entered the planet's atmosphere, Zaraketh noticed something strange. The air here felt different, thicker somehow, and charged with energy that made her skin tingle. She had visited hundreds of worlds in her career, but none had felt quite like this. The landing pad was surrounded by tall, crystalline trees that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The Keplerians who greeted them were humanoid, but graceful, with skin that shifted colors based on their emotions and large, knowing eyes that seemed to see right through her. The eldest among them stepped forward. This was Mothwing Dancing, the tribal elder she had read about in her briefings. The name had seemed silly to her when she first heard it, but seeing the being in person, she understood. The elder moved with the fluid grace of a moth's wings, and there was something ancient and wise in their expression. "Welcome, Stardaughter," Mothwing Dancing said, their voice carrying musical tones that resonated in Zaraketh's chest. "We have been expecting you." "I am Ambassador Zaraketh of the Andromedian Council," she replied formally, falling back. "On diplomatic protocol, I come representing the Galactic Federation with a proposal that will benefit both our peoples." The elder's skin shifted to a pale blue color. What Zaraketh's briefings had told her indicated amusement. "All who come to our world come with proposals, Stardaughter. But this world has its own plans for visitors. Are you prepared to listen, not just with your mind, but with your heart?" Something about the elder's words made Zaraketh uncomfortable. She had built her career on logic and strategy, not emotions. Hearts were unreliable. Hearts made mistakes. Hearts got you passed over for promotions. "I'm here to discuss the relocation of your people," she said, keeping her voice steady and professional. "The Federation is prepared to offer you a new world. One with better soil, cleaner water, and more space for your communities to grow." As she spoke, she noticed more Keplerians gathering around them. Unlike other species she had encountered, they didn't seem suspicious or hostile. Instead, they watched her with curiosity and something that looked almost like compassion. "Come," said Mothwing Dancing. "Let us show you our world before you ask us to leave it." The tour that followed was unlike anything Zaraketh had experienced. The Keplerians didn't just live on their planet, they lived with it. Their cities were grown rather than built, formed by guiding the natural crystal formations into homes and gathering spaces. Children played in gardens where the plants responded to their laughter with bursts of color and light. "Your Federation sees resources to be extracted," Mothwing Dancing explained as they walked through a grove of singing trees. We see a living being that has nurtured us for generations. To us, asking us to leave would be like asking you to abandon your own. Mother? Zareketh felt something shift inside her chest, an unfamiliar tightness that made it hard to breathe. She pushed the feeling aside. This was exactly the kind of emotional manipulation she had been warned about. Indigenous peoples always tried to make relocation sound worse than it was. The new world we're offering has all the same resources, she said. Your people would be happier there, safer. You'd have access to Federation technology and medical care. And what would happen to this world once we leave? Asked a younger Clary, and Zareketh hesitated. The mining process would strip away the crystal formations, level the forests, and fundamentally change the planet's ecosystem. But that was progress. That was how civilization advanced. The world would be developed, she said carefully, put to productive use. The elder's skin shifted to a deep purple sadness, according to her briefings. This world changes all who truly touch it. Stardaughter, are you prepared for transformation? That night, alone in her temporary quarters, Zareketh felt restless. She had been on the planet for less than a day, but already something felt different. The air here didn't just feel charged, it felt alive, like it was speaking to her in a language she didn't understand. She thought about her conversation with the elder. The warning about transformation seemed ridiculous. She was 300 years old, a seasoned diplomat who had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. Primitive world wasn't going to change her, but as she lay in her bed, listening to the soft humming of the crystal trees outside her window, she felt something she hadn't experienced in decades: doubt. Not about her abilities or her mission, but about whether what she was doing was right. She pushed the thought away. Right and wrong were luxuries she couldn't afford. She had a job to do, a career to secure, and a future to claim. The supreme chancellor position was within her grasp. She wouldn't let anything, not even her own conscience, stand in her way. Tomorrow, she would begin the real negotiations. Tomorrow, she would convince the Keplerians to leave their world behind. Tomorrow, she would take the final step toward the power she had always craved. But tonight, surrounded by the gentle energy of Kepler 44-B, Ambassador Zareketh fell asleep, to the sound of a world that was already beginning to change her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. 3 weeks had passed since Zareketh first set foot on Kepler 44-B, and the negotiations were not going as planned. Every morning she would meet with the tribal council, presenting logical arguments about progress and development. Every evening, she would return to her quarters feeling more frustrated than before. The Keplerians listened politely to everything she said. They asked thoughtful questions and discussed her proposals among themselves, but they never said yes, never even seemed close to saying yes. Perhaps we need to approach this differently, suggested Valoran during one of their planning sessions. Maybe we could offer them individual incentives instead of collective ones. Zareketh shook her head. She had tried that approach on other worlds, but something told her it wouldn't work here. The Keplerians seemed to think as one people, not as individuals looking out for themselves. What bothered her most wasn't their refusal to negotiate, it was how she felt when she was around them. The longer she stayed on this planet, the more. Her emotions seemed to be getting stronger. She found herself actually caring about their stories, their culture, their connection to this world. That morning, she woke up feeling different. Not just emotionally different, physically different. There was a strange warmth in her chest and a tingling sensation throughout her body. She assumed it was just stress from the difficult negotiations. But as the day went on, the feelings got stronger. During her meeting with the tribal council, she found it hard to concentrate. The room seemed too bright, too loud. The emotions of everyone around her felt like they were pressing against her mind. Stardaughter, said Mothwing dancing, interrupting her thoughts. You seem troubled today? Is something wrong? Zareketh straightened in her chair, trying to regain her composure. I'm fine. Let's continue discussing the relocation timeline. The elder's knowing eyes suggested they weren't convinced. World speaks to all who stay here long enough. Perhaps it is time you listened. That evening, Zareketh decided to run a medical scan on herself. Her portable scanner was standard Federation technology, capable of detecting any health issues that might affect her performance. She expected to find nothing more than elevated stress hormones. What she found instead made her drop the scanner in shock. The readings were impossible. According to the device, her body was undergoing biological changes that shouldn't be possible for someone of her species. Her hormone levels were fluctuating wildly, her cellular structure was shifting, and there were new energy patterns in her nervous system that the scanner couldn't identify. She ran the scan 3 more times, hoping for different results. Each time the readings became more alarming. Something was growing inside her, not a disease or infection, but something that registered as ... alive. Zaraketh's people. The Andromedians had a very different approach to reproduction than most species. For them, creating new life was a complex process that required careful preparation, multiple partners, and specific environmental conditions. It was something planned years in advance, not something that just happened, but according to her scanner, that's exactly what was happening to her. Her body was creating new life. It was doing it in a way that defied everything she knew about biology. She spent the night pacing her quarters, running more scans, checking her equipment for malfunctions. But the readings remained consistent. Something impossible was happening to her. She had no idea how to stop it. The next morning, she requested a private meeting with Mothwing Dancing. The elder received her in a quiet grove where the crystal trees hummed softly in the morning breeze. "I need to ask you something," Zaraketh began, her voice barely above a whisper. Can it affect someone's biology?" The elder's skin shifted to a warm golden color, understanding according to her briefings. "This world is special, Stardaughter. It has been waiting for someone like you for a very long time. Someone like me?" "What do you mean?" "Siza. Mother world," Mothwing Dancing explained. "One of only 7 in the galaxy. When different species come together here in peace, when their hearts are open to change, the world itself can create new life. Life that carries the best of all peoples." Zaraketh felt her knees go weak. "You're saying this planet made me ... that I'm going to have a baby? Not just any baby?" the elder said gently. "A child who will carry the hopes of unity between species, a bridge between worlds." The full impact of what this meant hit her like a physical blow. Her career, her ambitions, her entire life plan, all of it was now impossible. Andromedian society had strict rules about reproduction. A diplomat who became pregnant without proper authorization would be stripped of rank and exiled from their homeworld. "I have to contact my superiors," she said, her voice shaking. "I have to tell the council what's happening." That evening, she sent an encrypted message to the Andromedian Council, explaining her situation and requesting immediate medical evacuation. She tried to make it sound like a temporary setback, something that could be handled quickly and quietly. The response came back within hours, and it was everything she had feared. The council was furious. They ordered her to end the pregnancy immediately and complete her mission within 2 weeks. If she failed to do either, she would be declared a traitor to her people and banished forever. Zaraketh stared at the message. For a long time, it was 2 weeks to convince an entire civilization to abandon their homeland. 2 weeks to complete the most important mission of her career. 2 weeks to secure the future she had worked toward for 3 centuries. But something had changed in her during those 3 weeks on Kepler 4b. The life growing inside her wasn't just a biological process. It was a presence she could feel, a connection to something larger than herself. For the first time in her life, she understood what the Keplerians meant when they talked about being connected to their world. She found herself placing her hand on her abdomen, feeling the warm energy that pulsed there. This tiny life hadn't asked to be created, but it existed now. It was part of her, and despite everything, she realized she didn't want to lose it. The next morning, instead of going to the negotiation table, Zaraketh walked to the grove where she had first met Mothwing Dancing. The elder was waiting for her, as if they had known she would come. "I don't know what to do," she admitted. "Everything I've worked for, everything I am, it's all falling apart." "Perhaps," said the elder, "it is time to build something new. Something better." As they sat together in the singing grove, Zaraketh felt something she hadn't experienced since childhood. Hope. Not hope for power or position, but hope for a future she couldn't yet imagine. A future where this impossible child might grow up in a galaxy where different species truly understood each other. For the first time since receiving the Council's message, she smiled. The diplomatic career she had planned was ending, but maybe, just maybe, something more important was beginning. The weeks that followed were unlike anything Zaraketh had ever experienced. Her body continued changing in ways that amazed and terrified her. The life growing inside her seemed to pulse with the same energy as the crystal trees around her. Sometimes, when she placed her hand on her belly, she could swear she felt the baby, responding to the planet's rhythms. But the physical changes were nothing compared to what was happening to her mind. For 300 years, she had prided herself on thinking logically, making decisions based on facts and strategy. Now she found herself caring about things that had never mattered to her before. She started spending more time with the Keplerian families instead of locked away in her diplomatic quarters. She watched their children play games that involved singing to the crystal formations, making them light up in different colors. She saw how the adults shared everything: food, shelter, responsibilities, without anyone keeping track of who owed what to whom. "Your people live so differently from mine," she told Mothwing Dancing one afternoon as they walked through the main settlement. "How do you make decisions without arguments or competition?" The elder's skin shifted to a warm green contentment. "We listen to each other, and we listen to the world. When everyone's voice is heard, the right path usually becomes clear." Zaraketh thought about her own people, the Andromedians, and how they made decisions through debate and political maneuvering. The strongest voices won, and the weaker ones were ignored. She had always seen this as efficient, but now she wondered if they were missing something important. "What about individual ambition?" she asked. "Don't your people want to achieve great things to be recognized for their accomplishments?" "We do achieve great things," Mothwing Dancing replied. "But we achieve them together. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. When one of us suffers, we all help carry the burden." As her pregnancy progressed, Zaraketh began to understand what the elder meant. The other Keplerians didn't treat her like a foreign diplomat anymore. They treated her like family. They brought her foods that would help the baby grow strong. They sang to her belly in the evenings. She could feel the child responding to their voices. But the peaceful routine was shattered when her assistant, Valoran, received an urgent message from the Andromedian Council. Of the most feared military leaders in the Federation, was on his way to Kepler 44 to be with a full battle fleet. "They're not coming to negotiate," Valoran said, his voice shaking as he read the message. "They're coming to take control of the planet. By force." Zaraketh felt something cold settle in her stomach. "How long do we have? 3 days? Maybe 4 if we're lucky?" That evening, Zaraketh called an emergency meeting with the Tribal Council. The Keplerians listened calmly as she explained what was coming, but she could see the fear in their color shifting. Skin deep blues and purples that spoke of worry and sadness. "We could fight," suggested one of the younger council members. "We know this world better than they do. Fighting the Federation fleet would be suicide," Zaraketh said quietly. "The Ser have weapons that could destroy this entire planet. And what do you suggest?" asked Moth-Wing Dancing. For the first time in her life, Zaraketh didn't have an answer. Every diplomatic solution she could think of required time they didn't have. Every military option would result in the destruction of everything she had come to care about. That night, she lay awake, feeling the baby move inside her. The child seemed restless, as if it could sense the danger approaching. She found herself talking to it, something she had never done before. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've brought this to your world. I came here to take everything away from these people, and now they're going to lose it anyway." But as she spoke, she felt something shift inside her, not just physically, but emotionally. The baby's movements seemed to be communicating something. Not words, but feelings. Peace, hope, connection. Suddenly, she understood what Mothwing Dancing had been trying to tell her. This wasn't just about saving one planet or one people. This was about something much bigger. The next morning, she asked the elder to meet her in the sacred grove where the oldest crystal trees grew. The ancient formations hummed with power, and she could feel the baby responding to their energy. "Tell me about the mother worlds," she said. "Tell me everything." Mothwing Dancing's expression grew serious. "There are 7 worlds in the galaxy, with the power to create new life when different species come together in peace. For millions of years, they have been the source of unity and understanding between peoples. But the Federation has been destroying them, one by one." Destroying them? Why? Because they don't understand what they're destroying. They see valuable resources, not sacred places. They strip away the crystal formations that allow the worlds to create life, and once that's gone, the power is lost forever. Zaraketh felt, her heart racing. "How many mother worlds are left?" "This is the last one," the elder said quietly. "If Kepler 442b is destroyed, the galaxy will lose its ability to create true unity between species. The divisions between our peoples will become permanent." The weight of this knowledge settled on Zaraketh like a physical burden. Her unborn child wasn't just a baby, it was proof that different species could come together to create something new and beautiful. If the Federation destroyed this world, that proof would be lost forever. "There's something else," Mothwing Dancing continued. "Your child carries genetic material from 7 different species, every species that is visited this world with an open heart. It is the first true galactic citizen ever born." That afternoon, Admiral Krextor's fleet arrived ahead of schedule. The massive ships blotted out the sun as they positioned themselves in orbit around the planet. In hours, military shuttles were landing at the main settlement, and armed soldiers were setting up a command center. Zaraketh watched from her quarters as the Admiral himself strode into the settlement. She had met him before at Federation gatherings, a cold, efficient man who saw everything in terms of military objectives and political advantage. "Ambassador Zaraketh," he announced when he found her. "By order of the Andromedian Council, you are to report for immediate medical treatment and disciplinary action. Your mission here is terminated." For a moment, Zaraketh felt the old instincts kicking in, the desire to obey orders, to preserve what was left of her career, to find a way to negotiate her way out of trouble. But then she felt the baby move inside her, and she knew there was no going back. "I resign my commission," she said, her voice steady, despite the fear in her heart. "I formally request asylum with the Keplerian people." The Admiral's face twisted with anger. "You're a traitor to your own species. Do you think these primitives can protect you from the Federation?" "They're not primitives," Zaraketh replied. "Oh. They're the keepers of something the Federation has been destroying for centuries. Something that could save us all." As she spoke, she felt the Keplerians gathering around her, not to hide behind them, but to stand with them. For the first time in her life, she wasn't alone in facing a crisis. She was part of something bigger than herself. The choice that would change everything wasn't really a choice at all, was simply the next step in a transformation that had begun the moment she first set foot on this extraordinary world. The birth of Zaraketh's daughter was unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. As her labor pains began, the crystal trees around the settlement started glowing brighter. The very air seemed to hum with energy, and even the Federation soldiers stopped their work to stare at the strange lights dancing across the sky. Mothwing Dancing and the other Keplerian healers surrounded Zaraketh with gentle care. They sang ancient songs that seemed to help ease her pain, and their skin glowed with warm, supportive colors. This was so different from the sterile medical procedures she had known in her old life. "The child is coming," whispered one of the healers. "The world itself is celebrating." When the baby finally emerged, everyone in the room gasped. The little girl was beautiful beyond description, with skin that shifted through rainbow colors like the aurora, eyes that held the depth of ancient wisdom, and tiny fingers that sparkled with their own inner light. She carries the gifts of 7 species," Mothwing Dancing said with wonder. "Look at her. She is truly a child of the stars." Zaraketh held her daughter for the first time and felt her heart expand in ways she never thought possible. All her life she had chased after power and recognition, but nothing had ever felt as important as this tiny life in her arms. "Kirilleth," she whispered, using the Keplerian words for bridge between stars. Your name is Kirilleth. But there. The moment of joy was shattered by the sound of explosions in the distance. Admiral Krextor had grown tired of waiting. The Federation mining operation had begun. Massive machines were already tearing into the planet's crystal formations. The effect on baby Kirilleth was immediate and terrifying. The child began crying in distress, her skin flickering between colors rapidly. The electromagnetic disruptions from the mining equipment were causing her pain. "We have to stop them," Zerika said, her voice fierce with protective anger.
There.
Hurting her, but stopping the Federation seemed impossible. Their military force was overwhelming, and they had the legal authority to proceed with the mining operation. The Keplerians were peaceful people with no weapons that could challenge advanced Federation technology. That's when Zarakith realized she had something the Federation didn't expect: inside knowledge of their operations and weaknesses. 300 years of diplomatic experience had taught her how their bureaucracy worked, where their supply lines were vulnerable, and how to exploit their own rules against them. "Gather the tribal leaders," she told Mothwing Dancing, "and send word to any other species living on this planet. We're going to fight back." The resistance that formed over the next few days was unlike anything in galactic history. Zaraketh used her diplomatic skills to unite not just the Keplerians, but also the small communities of traders, refugees, and explorers who had made Kepler 4 for to be their home over the years. She taught them Federation military protocols, showed them how to disrupt supply shipments without causing unnecessary harm, and helped them coordinate attacks on the mining equipment while avoiding civilian casualties. For the first time in her life, she was using her talents not to advance her own career, but to protect something precious. The Federation forces were caught completely off guard. They had expected to deal with primitive resistance, not a sophisticated campaign led by someone who understood their every move. Mining operations were constantly interrupted by coordinated strikes that seemed to come from nowhere. "How are they doing this?" Admiral Krextor demanded during one of his briefings. "These people shouldn't be capable of this level of organization." But Zaraketh knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The Federation had unlimited resources and reinforcements. Even with all their clever tactics, they were slowly losing ground. The mining operation was destroying more of the planet's crystal formations each day, and little Kirilleth grew weaker with each disruption. That's when she made a decision that would change everything. If they couldn't stop the Federation through force, maybe they could stop them by showing the galaxy what they were really destroying. "I have an idea," she told the resistance leaders during one of their secret meetings, "but it's dangerous, and I'll need everyone's help." Her plan was audacious. Using Kirilleth's unique abilities as a bridge between species, they would send a message across the galaxy, not just words, but actual shared experience. Every species in the Federation would feel what it was like to lose a mother world. They would understand what was being destroyed, but the energy required for such a transmission would be enormous. It would take everything the planet had left, and there was no guarantee that Kirilleth would survive the process. "I won't risk my daughter's life," Zaraketh said firmly. "There has to be another way." "There is no other way," Mothwing Dancing replied gently. "This is what she was born for. She is the bridge between worlds, remember? Sometimes bridges must bear great weight." The preparation took weeks. Every remaining crystal formation on the planet was carefully attuned to amplify the signal. The various species living on Kepler 4 were to be shared their own emotional memories of home, loss, and hope. Even some of the Federation soldiers, moved by what they had witnessed, secretly helped with the preparations. Zaraketh held Kirilleth close as they prepared for the transmission. The baby girl looked up at her mother with eyes that seemed to understand everything, and somehow that gave Zaraketh the strength to continue. "I love you," she whispered to her daughter. "Whatever happens, remember that you are loved." The transmission began at sunset, when the planet's energy was at its strongest. Kirilleth's consciousness expanded, touching every living being on the planet, and then reaching out across the vastness of space. Through her unique connection to multiple species, she carried their shared message to every corner of the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, Billions of beings from thousands of different worlds experienced the same moment of understanding. They felt the pain of losing a home. They understood the beauty of unity between species. They saw what could be possible when different peoples came together in peace. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. On every Federation world, people stopped what they were doing and demanded an end to the Mother World destructions. Governments fell. New leaders rose. The very foundation of galactic civilization began to shift, but the cost was enormous. The transmission had drained most of the planet's remaining energy, and Kirillith lay unconscious in her mother's arms. Zarakath felt her own strength failing, the stress of the resistance, the energy she had shared with her daughter, and the physical demands of caring for such a unique child had pushed her body beyond its limits. As she looked down at her sleeping daughter, Zarakath felt something she had never experienced before: complete peace. She had found something more powerful than political ambition, more valuable than personal achievement. She had found love, purpose, and the chance to change the galaxy for the better. The transformation was complete. The ambitious diplomat who had come to this world seeking power had become a mother willing to sacrifice everything for her child and the future of all species. And in that transformation, she had discovered the greatest power of all, the power to inspire others to choose. Love over fear, unity over division. The morning after the Great Transmission, the galaxy woke up to a new reality. On every world and every star system, people were talking about what they had experienced. The shared vision of unity and loss had touched something deep in the hearts of billions of beings. Zarakath watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy with wonder and exhaustion. Her body was weak from the effort of helping her daughter channel such enormous energy, but her spirit soared as she saw the results of their sacrifice. On the planet Andros Prime, thousands of Andromedians gathered in the capital square, demanding an end to the Mother World mining operations. On Terra Nova, human colonists organized peaceful protests outside Federation headquarters. Even on distant Crystalline, the rock-like beings who rarely showed emotion were reportedly weeping crystal tears at the beauty of what they had witnessed. "Look what your daughter has done," Mothwing Dancing said, holding up a communication device showing images from around the galaxy. "She has awakened something that has been sleeping for too long." Little Kirillith slept peacefully in her mother's arms, unaware that her brief connection to the galactic consciousness had already begun changing the course of history. The baby's skin still flickered with faint colors, but she seemed more settled. Now, as if the successful transmission had brought her peace, Admiral Krekstar received his new orders within hours. The Andromedian Council, facing massive public pressure, had ordered an immediate halt to all mining operations on Kepler 44-B, but the Admiral was a stubborn man who didn't like being told what to do by civilians. "This is temporary," he told his officers. "Once the public excitement dies down, we'll resume operations." These emotional outbursts never last long. But this time was different. The transmission hadn't just shared information, it had shared actual feelings and experiences. People across the galaxy now understood on a deep emotional level what it meant to lose something precious. They wouldn't forget easily. Within days, governments on dozens of worlds began falling. Citizens who had felt the pain of the destroyed mother worlds demanded new leadership. They wanted representatives who understood that some things were more valuable than economic gain. Zarakath watched these changes with mixed emotions.
Ow.
She was proud of what they had accomplished, but she could feel her own strength fading. The pregnancy, the stress of leading a resistance, and the energy she had shared with her daughter during the transmission had pushed her body beyond its limits. "I don't think I have much time left," she confided to Mothwing Dancing one evening. As they sat together in the healing grove, the elder's skin shifted to deep purple, sadness mixed with acceptance. "You have given everything for this cause. The galaxy will remember your sacrifice." "I don't care about being remembered," Zarakath said, holding Kirillith closer. "I just want to know that she'll be safe. She'll grow up in a better world than the one I knew." The changes continued to ripple across the galaxy. Within 6 months, the Galactic Federation, as it had existed for centuries, was gone. In its place rose something new, the Galactic Harmony Council, where every species had an equal voice and decisions were made through consensus rather than force. The new government's first act was to declare all remaining mother worlds as sacred, sites protected by the strongest laws the galaxy had ever known. Mining, military operations, and commercial development were permanently banned on these precious planets. But more importantly, the transmission had awakened something in people's hearts. Mixed species communities began forming on worlds throughout the galaxy. Different peoples who had been suspicious of each other for generations started working together, sharing knowledge and culture in ways that had never been possible before. Zaraketh lived to see her daughter's second birthday, celebration that brought together beings from 7 different species who had all come to love the little girl. Kirillith was walking now, her steps causing small flowers to bloom wherever she went. Her laughter making the crystal trees sing with joy. "She's going to do amazing things," Valoran said as he watched the child play with a group of young Keplerians. The former assistant had stayed on the planet after the resistance, finding a new purpose in helping to document the changes that were sweeping the galaxy. "Already has," Zaraketh replied softly. "She helped save the galaxy before she could even talk." That night, Zaraketh fell asleep for the last time, holding her daughter close. She died peacefully, with a smile on her face, knowing that the world Kirillith would inherit would be filled with the possibility of true unity between all peoples. The years that followed proved that her sacrifice had not been in vain. Kirillith grew up to become the first ambassador of universal harmony, a position created specifically for her unique abilities. Unlike the old diplomatic roles that focused on negotiation and compromise, her job was to help different species truly understand each other. She could speak every language in the galaxy, not just with words, but with emotions and shared experiences. When conflicts arose between worlds, she would help the opposing sides feel what it was like to walk in each other's shoes. Wars became almost impossible when people could truly understand their enemies' pain and hopes. The former mother world of Kepler-4 for 2b became a pilgrimage site for beings from across the galaxy. Parents brought their children to see the place where unity had been born. Young diplomats studied there to learn about peaceful resolution of conflicts. Artists and writers came seeking inspiration from the world to galactic harmony. But perhaps the most important visitors were the couples from different species who came to start families of their own. The planet's unique energy continued to work its magic, creating children who carried the best traits of multiple peoples. These children, known as Bridgeborn, became living symbols of what was possible when love conquered fear. Mothwing dancing, now ancient but still wise, often told visitors the story of the ambitious diplomat who had come to their world seeking power. The elder would end the tale the same way every time. She sought to rule the stars, but discovered that nurturing one small life was the greatest power of all. In choosing love over ambition, she didn't just save our world, she saved every world. And in the sacred grove where Zaraketh was buried, a new type of crystal tree grew. Its branches sparkled with 7 different colors, representing the unity of species that her sacrifice had made possible. Children from across the galaxy would come to play beneath its branches, their laughter mixing with the gentle humming of the crystals. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all, that true power doesn't come from controlling others, but from helping them become the best versions of themselves. And that sometimes the greatest victories are won not through conquest, but through love.